Oh, ow, oh. Ugh, I hurt.
Where are we? Are we dead?
Can't be. Oh. I hurt too much to be dead.
Then where are we?
I knew you had the potential to be a great hero.
You?
I'm sorry I couldn't aid you further.
Who are you? And where are we now?
This is Altador. You are in the Hall of Heroes. The answers you seek lie here.
Altador? The same Altador that the darkest Faerie destroyed?
She is powerful, but there are greater powers than even she knows. The answers you need are here, but you must decipher them.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Neopets, the Darkest Faerie. Welcome to my original scene of shock and awe when I got to this point the first time I ever played this game. Act 4 exists. Welcome to Altador. A place that was never seen before in Neopets until this game was released. Later on, it would be added to the website. So yes, it wasn't the Monty Python scene. It wasn't the fact that the old knight, who is now, I guess, the king of Altador, getting killed by a boomerang. It was the fact that this entire section of the game exists. And now we get to go through it and experience Altador. Before we do that, though, we need to get out of the Hall of Heroes and learn a little bit more about what we're supposed to do here. So we need to find some mosaic pieces in order to restore the floor mosaic. They're pretty much around the whole of the Hall of Heroes. If you just make your lap around, you're able to find where all of these pieces are. There's 3 in total. They're really not that hard to find. But it's not just about getting the floor mosaic. There is also a treasure here that we also need to find, and as well, we can kind of get started into what kind of information we can get out of this place. For instance, 12 statues surround the Hall of Heroes, and they all have inscriptions that we are able to read. That just gives some nice little lore tidbits, but some of them, depending on how long the inscription is, also gives you something in your quest log. I'm not really going to talk about the quest log too much in this video. I'm going to keep this one really short. But I'll mention right now that the quest log is a little bit off in Act 4. It's not a perfect act. There's a mortal chest. Chances are... what are the chances that we're going to get a supernova mode or something like this out of the chest? Oh, nope, okay. Just a regular potion of power. Alright, fine then. Pretty much should just switch over to using all of my Nova modes at this point. I have too many for how long the rest of the game is at this point. We are reaching the end, don't you worry. We get to see all of these legends. Good amount of fairies who are joining all of our heroes here. Fairy of Light. Depending on the hero, we get a little bit more information. Some are passed over by the wayside, which is, well, to be expected. At this point in the game, they really are trying to wrap things up, and we'll see a little bit more of that as we go. This one I want you to remember, though, because this inscription for this statue in particular is going to be helpful as we get into Act 4 specifically. Under their city, you make your home, a dry fountain as your doorstep, as your entrance. Some of them are just kind of up on ledges. It's kind of weird in order to get to where the inscriptions are. Now, the other thing about Act 4, it is short, but it can also be much, much shorter if you know how to speedrun. Now, I showed off speedrunning in my last bonus video. Please watch that. It was really good in order to make. And if you actually take advantage of ledge flying and other ways in order to actually clip through walls, you can actually finish Act 4 in about 2 minutes. Because the Hall of Heroes, the way the roadmap kind of works out is that Act 4, you start in the Hall of Heroes, you work your way out, do all the quests, and eventually that will lead you all the way back to the Hall of Heroes. If you are able to do any speedrunning strategies of your own, you should be able to clip through the door in order to get to the final stretches of Act 4 and kind of finish off the game. It's kind of nuts, in that case. There's also another thing about the Hall of Heroes I will mention once we are all finished up here. But before we do that, there's one last statue, which might be a little bit more familiar, especially because we get a scene out of it. Of all the statues to be in the Hall of Heroes. But I guess in a League of Heroes, there's going to be one from the dark, one from the shadows. One of evil who turns power to good. But for how long? Well, apparently not a lot, because 12 founders become 11. Didn't last very long for her. And in the end, we get the 3 mosaic pieces, and we can head back down to the ground floor, place them where we need to place them, which happens instantaneously.
This is amazing. It's a detailed account of the beginning of Altador's empire. Apparently, a very long time ago, these lands were overrun by terrible monsters. 12 heroes arose and joined forces to defeat these monsters and create Altador. The city grew into a vast empire that lasted thousands of years. Then something went horribly wrong. About 1,000 years ago, one of these heroes broke her sacred bond and tried to conquer all of Altador. She could corrupt things, Neopets and places, and the empire started to crumble. She became known as the Darkest Faerie.
She was destroying us. In a desperate bid to save Altador, our sorceress, Jordana, twisted time itself. As the Darkest Faerie spread her powers over the city, Altador was sealed away in a bubble of slowed time, completely removed from the world.
So everyone thought Altador was destroyed.
The remnants of her evil still haunt this land, and we cannot root it out.
Can't anything be done?
There is a possibility. The 4 greatest Altador legends have shrines built to them. If the 4 shrines were restored, the legends should awaken, restoring the land and granting aid to those battling the Darkest Faerie.
Then we'll awaken them. Where are those shrines?
And what do we have to do?
Just be the heroes you are destined to be.
The reflection on King Altador's armor, especially on the centerpiece, really just looks like he has a golden eyeball in his chest. It looks a little unsettling. But yes, once we've finished up the floor mosaic, we can actually exit the Hall of Heroes. We weren't able to do that before. Which brings me to something about the Hall of Heroes that I wasn't able to replicate. Apparently, there is a game-breaking glitch that happens if you decide to save inside of the Hall of Heroes, but you actually have not opened up the door in order to get out, like so. Apparently, if you save and exit, and then decide to head back in, it just decides that it won't actually open up the bars for you. I've not been able to replicate this, but I'll just have that as a warning to you. Just make sure that it doesn't happen to you. So I'll see you next time, everyone. We're out in Altador. Let's go exploring. Find some shrines.